Namaste, healthy lifestyle family members. Let's talk about diabetes, the number one, actually, the chronic disease that is hurting most of our family members, not just the family members, but throughout the world. And the name diabetes mellitus has come from the phrase to pass through and honey, because we pass actually glucose in our urine. There are multiple types of diabetes, and one of the leading is the type 2, but the type 1 diabetes is the one which you get during your childhood. And only few people get it when actually our body immune system attacks its own pancreas. Pancreas is the gland which secretes insulin, and if our body attacks our own pancreas, it actually kills it. And the type 2 is when actually the pancreas runs out of the insulin, or else our body couldn't actually process the insulin secreted by pancreas. Gestation is one form of diabetes. It is also kind of type 2 diabetes, which actually comes up during the pregnancy period. Coming to the symptoms, we get fatigue and we have to frequently urinate because the glucose in your bloodstream has to be kicked out of the system. And one of the ways is actually to filter it through the kidneys and then moving it out of the system. And that's why people with diabetes frequently urinate. That's one form of actually saving your own body. And we also lose weight because we couldn't actually process glucose. So whatever you eat, the glucose is in process and it is actually excreted in the urine. So obviously you will lose the weight because you're malnourished. Diabetes is a very big industry. It's a 327 billion dollar industry through direct and indirect methods. It can be the hospitals, pharmaceutical industries, or the support care services, or else even the devices industry, or any other sorts of things. But if you check the price every human is paying in United States, it's $9,600 per year in 2017, and it is increasing over year. As per our Indian statistics, we have around 12% of the Indians who are diagnosed with diabetes, and maybe 10% more who are already pre-diabetic. And this is how actually the diabetes is increasing in United States, and it is similar to what's it's happening in India or China or any other part of the world. The gray areas or the dark areas are the one which are actually telling you how it is increasing, rapidly increasing actually. One of the suspect for type 1 diabetes is cow milk, and there might be other similar type of antibodies which actually our body will fight, and in the process it also kills pancreatic cells which secrete insulin. And type 2 and gestational diabetics are the one which we come across after 30s or 40s or some in the 50s. And why it happens in the first place? Because our cells are accumulating all the fats. And when we have all the fats, we couldn't process the insulin. So insulin resistance or sensitivity happens, and the pancreas also couldn't compensate the insulin loss. Lack of testosterone or thyroid is one of the cause, and high cortisols or stress hormones are also one of the causes. We'll look into more, but there are one of the causes. These are one of the causes, but fat in the cells is the major one. This is on the right side. You can see a muscle cell, and you see insulin. The red one is the insulin receptors. Every cell in our body will have a receptor. So when we eat something, and typically carbohydrates, the glucose will come to the bloodstream, and then with it actually pancreas will also secrete insulin, and insulin comes and then it opens the receptor. Once it opens the receptor, it actually opens the gate to actually get all the glucose inside the cell. And what happens with the type 2 diabetes is the cell is actually clouded with all the fat. When it is clouded, insulin couldn't actually open the gates to inflow all the glucose molecules, and the result is actually the glucose in the bloodstream. and you know what's happens. We actually treat the glucose with more and more insulin. But the problem here is insulin actually couldn't turn on the key. You need to actually turn on the key, which we will be dealing it later. And it's not new. We know it in 1936. And you can see this study. You can pause the video and you can go through this. You can also search his name, Himsworth. And we know it long before, but it's not what your doctor is telling you. They are actually treating you for the glucose, but not the insulin sensitivity inside your cells. So that's what we have to deal at the first place. And why we have to deal, because no one is actually telling you, not even the American Diabetic Association. If you go through this website, diabetes.org, there are a lot of research that's going on, and millions of dollar funding is being used in order to come up with new devices. And those devices are actually trying to target the glucose, but not the insulin sensitivity. And on the right side, you can also see the highlighted text. They're talking about actually body couldn't process the insulin, but why? It's not actually dealt here, because you will know it in the future, but everything is easy when you know the cause and you beat the cause. And now with this information, we are going to beat the cause. You're going to know why we get it at the first place in more detail, and how to beat it and go back to your previous stage. For that to happen, there's a lot of stuff that we have to actually know and then learn and adapt in our life in order to beat the diabetes. Finally, you can reverse the diabetes. If not in 100% of the cases, at least in 99% of the cases, you can reverse diabetes. Thank you for watching. Bye.